Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Dan Mallin, CEO and founder of Lucy. Lucy is a one-stop AI-powered knowledge platform focused on helping organizations find the answers they're looking for through all the data an organizations owns and licenses. Dan, it's so exciting to chat with you. As we were chatting a little bit before the show, not only am I excited about learning from your experience as you've seen kind of technology evolve over the years. You're an early employee at Apple, and I'm sure that whole ecosystem was completely different from what we're dealing with now, especially as AI and all the tools and technologies that companies can use even internally to really improve processes, gather information, and overall be more efficient and effective. Obviously, we'll get into some really fun stuff with Lucy and what you're doing with AI. But before we get into that, Dan, what were you doing before you started the company?
Well, there's a thing about founders, and I am truly a serial entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
I had the opportunity back, nothing like dating myself, but back in the 80s to work for entrepreneurial ventures such as Apple and Microsoft, but at a very different time,
Yeah.
right? Today we see these as as global behemoths, and again we were. I remember at Microsoft, we all fit in a room. Let's
Yeah.
say it that way, right? So I've been doing many things along the way,
Yeah.
and actually was in the midst of selling my last company, and with again my current partner. So there's a few of us, and so we were selling it, leaving one of the partners behind, and we were a big Salesforce company called Magnet 360. So one of the leading Salesforce implementers. And so we were just brainstorming, saying, "Hey, what is it that we should be doing next?" And
Yeah.
we ended up coming up with the idea of this, and this is 6+ years ago. AI is just coming out. IBM Watson beating Keith Jennings and the Jeopardy challenge, just mind blowing in the day. And so we're like, okay, how would we apply that technology? And
Yeah.
again, we came out of Fortune 1000, big business, this world. And so there is so much data
Yeah.
that exists inside companies that is so poorly leveraged
Yeah.
that we just thought, hey, that seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we've embarked upon a process of really building out this awesome tool set that just what if I could ask questions of all the data in my company and just get answers? And
Yeah.
that's where we are.
It's incredible to think about, even just like, which we jump into Lucy and AI and go into that topic, but in particular with the experience of the early startups that you've been a part of, how has maybe startup philosophy around scaling, about customer acquisition, has that changed at all? Or is that pretty much kind of built into the playbook of how to grow and scale and adopt your technology across your base and your total kind of addressable market? How has that changed?
Well, it depends how you're funding
Sure.
is really part of the answer. So
Yeah.
I mean, and actually in Minnesota where I am, we created something 19 years ago called the Minnesota Cup. And so it's a entrepreneurial new ideas, breakthrough ideas competition. We've helped 20,000 entrepreneurs through this process. And I've read more business plans than most VCs. We'll say it that way. But the reality here is the best thing you can do is not take other people's money. And I'm not saying that's always an option. And I currently have other people's money. So I don't want to make it sound, but if you can do that, you can operate your business differently, and you're empowered to do different things.
Yeah.
The growth model in the VC world specifically is apply these dollars we're giving you, invest them all quickly, and just grow as fast as you can.
Hmm.
That said, they're looking for home runs out of companies, and they're as likely to drive you to success or bankruptcy,
Right.
because both of those outcomes are their finish.
You're right.
And again, VCs are a huge part of the world. I have their money, so I don't want to. I'm not here bashing them.
Sure.
I'm just saying it affects how you run your business,
Yeah.
and you have to be careful though, because you don't want to run out of money, or you don't want to. And I had some great mentors along the way, and board chairman and other investors who were like, "Hey, build a good business and the
Right.
rest will come."
Yeah.
And so you got to make sure that if you're investing in growth, you have to make sure that you have a knob or dial that you can turn back
Right.
and make yourselves just a profitable enterprise at any level along the way.
Yeah.
that's a good business. And so if you're losing money on each unit,
Yeah.
you can't invest in growth and make that work.
Yeah.
If you're making money on each unit, but you're investing in getting more people to buy them, then you can make that work.
Yeah.
And it works out. So, and the other piece is deliver value to your customers, do it with excellence, customer service, and those things haven't changed, right? We
Right.
we have to be about just doing the best job ever, and it's not the technology stack that wins.
Right.
It's the customer success, customer service stack that wins on top of awesome technology.
Yeah. And how has that become, obviously now kind of shifting more towards AI, how has that become more of a reality for companies who are strapped for resources? You can't hire a bunch of customer service agents because they're costly. And as a founder, you can only take so many customer calls depending on the volume of people who are using. What has like the evolution of AI now recently been able to, in your mind, kind of optimize for the processes that most businesses have as just like a normal function?
Well, certainly we've all experienced the AI chatbot, right?
Yeah.
Where you log on to somebody and they're answering questions, and in most cases today, it's a funny use of the word AI because they're really programmed outcomes, right?
Right.
So they have 1,000 things they know how to answer. Somebody manage those 1,000 in a process, and then the chatbot itself is using natural language recognition, so therefore it's AI.
Right.
In general, it's a very low usage of AI,
Sure.
and obviously in the in the last 60 days, everybody has learned about Chat GPT, which is actually AI and a language model
Right.
that is answering questions from the corpus of knowledge that's in Wikipedia and some other internet sources. And so, but for companies, it's not about the internet, and
Yeah.
that's where everybody's kind of lost. Is it really? I don't want answers in the internet. Google could have gotten me yesterday's answers, and Chat GTP is getting me tomorrow's answers from the internet. I need answers from the data that I have already invested
Yeah.
in creating. That's our internal esoteric data, that
Yeah.
is our IP and answers to questions that aren't on the internet. And I don't really want the internet's answer.
Yeah.
I need our answer.
Yeah. And what in particular, obviously, I want you to describe the technology a little more with Lucy and how it's integrated and kind of what it allows businesses to do. So we'll give you a chance to give you some context there, but also how was information gathered previously for these large companies and how much was being lost in the inability to access that information?
So here's some amazing data points
Yeah.
that are just mind blowing. So the first answer is anybody who's been at a company knows that PowerPoints or presentations are created at a volume that you can measure in thousands or tens of thousands per day,
Wow.
right? So at a Fortune 1000 company, they're be making 5,000 new PowerPoints every day.
Yeah.
So, and that's just to set the scale. That says I wrote a PowerPoint or a presentation 6 months ago, and I can barely find it on my laptop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just a little case in point. But here's some data. Within 30 days of a PowerPoint being created in an organization, it is stored for 7+ years and never opened again, 90% likely.
Wow.
30 days, 90% are never opened again. Within 90 days, it's over 98% are never opened again. So what's the act of putting together a PowerPoint? It takes a knowledge worker
Hmm.
to research and take the data that exists in the company, convert it to knowledge in the form that's transferable through graphs and charts and content.
Hmm.
And then it is presented normally once and never used again.
And why is that? Some of us would think, oh, maybe the knowledge isn't relevant, but is that the
Well,
case?
then, yeah, the knowledge isn't accessible.
Yeah.
It's in a PowerPoint. It might be stored on your hard drive. It might be stored on your shared server. It might be stored on SharePoint or OneDrive or Box or Dropbox or wherever
Yeah.
your company stores information. And actually, somebody who's come into the company, they 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 have the situation which is okay. Everything you need to know is on the SharePoint. Go find it.
Right.
And anybody who's been told that, you can't really find anything
Yeah.
and know what it is. And then the other thing is, if you try to use classic search, what happens is you get a list of documents, and it might be 100 or 1,000 documents.
Right.
But let's just say you only are going to look at the top 10, and let's just say that there's only 10 pages each, which isn't that's not the
Yeah.
average number of pages. Pages are 50 kind
Yeah.
of number. But so 10 documents, 10 pages, that's 100 pages of reading to get your answer.
Yeah.
And then we also know that people in the enterprise are searching for information 25% of the time.
Really?
So if you're a knowledge worker, you're actually spending 20 to 25% of your time looking for stuff. And worse yet, 80% of the time you bother other people to help you find the answer. So not only am I wasting 20% of the time, I'm interacting with another 5, 10, 20 people,
Yeah.
asking them to help me find the content that I'm looking for. And if you're lucky, one of them says, "Oh, I did something on that, and here's the PowerPoint I did," because that's what we knew. And we don't think of it as kind of an iceberg.
Right.
The knowledge that you know exists is the top of the iceberg. The knowledge that's in the company is the bottom 90% of the iceberg that you're unaware of.
Yeah.
It might not have been done by somebody I know. It might not have been done by somebody in my work group or business unit or division and so there's just no way of exposing the content that's out there.
Yeah. And what goes into training a sophisticated model? Obviously, gathering information from text over the internet is a little bit more feasible versus going into applications, reading through documents, actually ingesting the information, evaluating it, and then outputting whatever you're looking for. What goes into the sophistication of building something that integrates with all these different softwares, platforms, and everything that's involved in a company's ecosystem?
So again, there's a level of where is this stuff stored.
Yeah.
And so we attack it with the concept of what is the use case for this kind of set of knowledge that we want. We identify the sources of that knowledge. So it might be on these 3 SharePoints. It
Sure.
might be in some purchased or licensed data from Mintel and that Business Intelligence Insider or whatever. And then we identify the user group. And so even as you're thinking about rolling this out, it's not like a big bang. We don't just connect to all the data,
Yeah.
connect to all the users, and because it's really not the way to drive this. It's one use case,
Yeah.
one set of data or sets of data,
Yeah.
and then the users associated with it, and you just keep cycling that data users, use case data users, and all of a sudden you have kind of an enterprise system. But the way it works is really mind blowing. So you have 10 SharePoint sites. We connect to those 10 SharePoint sites. We just monitor the adds, changes, and deletes inside there. And so initially, all those documents are read, watched, or listened to
Yeah.
by Lucy in our case. And she tags and indexes and creates metadata about everything inside there.
Yeah.
But we don't do it at the document level. We're doing it, and but go back to my PowerPoint example, we do each slide.
Yeah.
So if you have a 100 slide deck, it's tagged 100 different ways,
Yeah.
each page. So we can bring back the slide, not the deck.
Wow.
And that's how you get, but that can't be done without AI.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do that. And most systems, you got to upload that content in it. No, we just connect to it and monitor it.
Yeah.
Most systems you have to tag it yourself. And here are the 10 keywords or 20 keywords I added to this deck.
Yeah.
We're doing 50 keywords, 50 concepts, things per slide.
Yeah.
And so we get to we can actually find that needle in the haystack across huge, huge data sets. And so, and again, I don't know it exists. I don't know that where it exists. I don't know how to log into Mintel, even though we have a license. I didn't know that we had a license.
Yeah.
And so again, it's the ubiquitous kind of access to all of the data sources
Yeah.
at one point, and one single question. And then the other thing we do is we also expose data things or systems. So if you have a data in Power BI, Tableau, those kinds of tools,
Yeah.
or esoteric third party tools or internal tools that you've built, you can ask again a single natural language question. Lucy then queries all of those repositories,
Yeah.
all of those third party data sets, and all of those systems. And she brings back just the dashboard in the system. But what she does is give you the top 10 answers from across 1,000 different places.
Yeah.
But again, going back to this, has anybody heard of GPT recently? And Lucy actually has been had GPT in the product, generative AI,
Yeah.
for over a year. And what we do is we take all those answers, feed it into GPT, and she writes a synopsis of the answer.
Wow.
And so we give you, here's the synopsis of the answer. Here are the 10 sightings of where we came from. And then, just to blow your mind one level further, because most people are disturbing other people to find information. And do you know how they disturb people?
Instant
They
message.
might use Slack
Yeah.
or Teams. So you can just mention Lucy in your Slack conversation and she'll answer with that synopsis in Slack.
It's incredible to think about the way all the information can be gathered. First of all, thinking about when a document's updated and tracking that information is completely different than having kind of a read protocol, which is amazing to see that kind of feature built into it. But also, how much training or education is needed to be done in prompting AI, in prompting to actually gather the right information. Do you go I do find that that's a huge kind of learning curve for a lot of these internal employees and these organizations to actually prompt it to find the right thing.
So the prompt is it's really interesting. We have been working hard on natural language.
Yeah.
So the examples of what people ask and they think in keywords kind of searching historically. And then I talked earlier about customer success is such a big part of this. So
Hmm.
what happens is you ask Lucy a question. The first thing she does is give you the answers. But the second thing she does is, did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah.
And yes or no. Right. And
Right.
so if it's a no, it tees up we say, hey, tell me more about what you were looking for.
Right.
And that tees up a workflow around ensuring that the data is there. Lucy's doing the right things. Lucy understands the acronyms. So it's part of the learning module.
Yeah.
It's also, but here's something that started happening really quickly. We realized that somebody might ask a question like energy drinks.
Yeah.
And they would say, did you find what you're looking for? And they say, no, I was looking for millennials' uptakes of energy drinks in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay. So and that would have teed up a workflow on our side to
Right.
make sure that that's answered. But what we started realizing is people describing what they were looking for actually asked the question they should have asked in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So we're actually, as part of that, we apply that answer or that secondary question to see if it gives you what you want. And we tee up the workflow and make sure that you get there. But the truth is, it's no, tell me more about what you want. And then you give an explanation. And this is a case where I don't want to say more words are better because too many words aren't better. We want to focus on, hey, ask a really good question, just like if I was asking you, Julian.
Yeah.
I wouldn't walk up to you and say energy drinks because you'd look at me and go, what?
Yeah.
What do you want? Do you want an energy drink? No, I want to know about millennials' usage of energy drinks or uptake over the last 5 years as compared to fruit drinks. Again, the better the question you ask, the better the AI comes up with an answer.
Yeah.
And the idea in the AI side is, hey, it's natural language, so we want to understand the question. But the other side is we've got all the content that we've already indexed, and
Yeah.
it's also a natural language understanding. And so it's a big matchup of all of that to be able to get you that. And again, we do that against all of those systems. And then we write a natural language synopsis that you can just read and should be able to give you that answer.
Yeah. What's been the challenge in terms of building trust within, say, a large organization who may be afraid of privacy, maybe doesn't think the technology can gather from from the information that they have available? How is that kind of, I guess, back? How have you combated that pushback of trust and actual ability of the technology? And what are ways that you're able to communicate the value to companies that are considering your technology?
Yeah, there's so much to. So first of all, security and information security and trust are just part of every conversation, right?
Right, right.
And we're ISO 27001 certified, which is a rigorous process to ensure that we follow great security procedures.
Right.
And we do external testing and penetration testing, trying to break into. We hire people to try to break into
Yeah.
our system,
Yeah.
literally, as part of that process. But so again, we have best practices. The clients are very aware and have teams that certify us in their worlds
Yeah.
to do that. But one of the things we don't do is the documents that we are referencing never leave your servers.
Yeah.
So if it's in SharePoint, it doesn't get loaded into Lucy. It's still on your server, unmodified
Hmm.
and completely available. So we never take possession. We're not the system of record. We don't have anything to worry about there. The second thing, which is really important, and it relates to, again, some of these technologies, you don't have access to everything on SharePoint at your company.
Right.
You have access to this SharePoint, not that SharePoint.
Yeah.
You have access to this 5 SharePoints, not these 5 SharePoints. So if you and I both have different sets of access and ask the same question, Lucy actually gives the answer only from the documents that you're allowed to know about.
That's incredible.
Right. So, and if you think about it, of course, that has to be the case.
Right.
Um, because my vice president of my division has other knowledge that I shouldn't have,
Yeah.
and has access to documents about the reorganization, has that the merger, has things that are happening at those levels that happen inside companies.
Yeah.
And so, and my manager has access to different information than I do. And so, and again, and then there's HR kind of content that might everybody have access to. So we have available content that's appropriate and available. Might be in my geography, but not your geography.
Yeah.
Again, HR, well, the laws are different by state, by country. And so all of which has to apply to these models.
Yeah.
And again, that's a piece of mind blowing. And then the last piece, which Lucy does, is remember, we always tell you where the answer came from.
Yeah.
So, when you get a synopsis answer, but it says, hey, we got this answer out of this PowerPoint, page 36 of this PowerPoint,
Yeah.
and minute 13 of this video, and the third PDF, page 12 of this PDF. And so you can validate that this is real data
Yeah.
from real sources that you trust. But the other thing is, because we're not using the internet, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but you can ask the internet any question and get validating content on any side of any argument,
Yeah.
right? So the fact that ChatGTP lies to people isn't that hard to believe, because the content is coming from this vast unknown repository.
Right.
But our content comes from your internal repository.
Yeah.
And we give you the references, so that, think of it as the footnotes
Yeah.
in your research paper. We actually give you those. So yes, you should make sure that they are valid and you believe in them and they're good. But quickly you'll understand that, hey, yeah, the content's coming, and Julian wrote this paper, so I think it's valid.
Yeah.
But the other piece is, I might also want to ask Julian. And so you can see who wrote the document. You can also get access to them. And we also help you find the experts
Yeah.
inside the company too. So I'm looking for a specific type of expert. One way is they wrote the document. The other way is we actually help you find it inside kind of the HR system too.
Yeah. It's incredible to think about the internal, like, a function of an enterprise organization. And I think you proposed a question before the show of the change of enterprise work and the standard of enterprise work being significantly changing. Well, what was the standard before, and what in particular has been changing in this working ecosystem? Obviously, I think a lot of organizations just in general structurally are changing to hybrid and remote and offers different challenges. But outside of that, what standards are being changed and what were they before?
Well, again, you had access to some subset. There's data even on onboarding new employees.
Right.
In your first week, you're told maybe 50% of what you need to know,
Yeah.
and your retention rate is very low,
Yeah.
right? Because you're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed, and then again, the rest is figure it out. Ask the people around you. Well, now I'm working from home. There's nobody around me.
Yeah.
I can't run into somebody and go, oh, I was asked, I had a question about this, because there isn't a run into somebody
Yeah.
kind of model. Now we've replaced that with Slack and Teams and other things, and that's where but we tend to do that to 20 people at a time, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about this. And so the right person may not have been around to answer. They might be too busy to answer. And again, you're either taking up other times, or we teach people to ignore Queens and Slack or Teams because there's too much going on. The other thing is the speed of business
Yeah.
has turned up, right? And actually the speed of technology. We talk about dog years, and now we're in, like, I don't know, is it gerbil
Yeah.
years? I don't even know what it is,
Almost
right?
insect years at this
Where
point.
right, I mean, it's the idea of, oh my, it's just happening so fast that how could I keep up with it
Right.
in any, the it's not like we've published the procedural operating manual and things, and that lasts for 5 or 10 years,
Right.
right?
Right.
We have to adapt to all of these cycles that are happening at just a different pace.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have a system that does that, and so the idea being, hey, I change that thing, I store it or update it on the server, and then as soon as a couple hours, it's live and available,
Yeah.
and really it can be faster. It's just mind blowing and globally available and instantly in multiple languages and all of the kinds of things
Yeah.
that never happened in the past. We used to wait annually for the trade show to announce a product,
Right.
right? Well, that doesn't happen anymore. We don't wait for the trade show.
Yeah.
Let's get it out there. Let's cycle it. Even the concept of SaaS software versus on-prem software. SaaS software we can be updated. It doesn't get, but could be daily or weekly, right? I mean,
Right.
that's possible. It's usually monthly or quarterly, but the on-prem we would do after 3 years. We probably have to get that update,
Right. Right.
and then there's a process to it, and everybody, and let's just say you had 1,000 customers using it. That means 1,000 IT teams had to install it.
Yeah.
Versus in SaaS, it's just one team installs it, manages it, keeps it running.
Yeah. And shifting a little bit more towards the business and the outcomes, what's particularly been exciting for the last few years, kind of recent growth? How many customers do you have? What's particularly excited about who you've been able to service thus far? But what are you particularly excited about now that AI is really popularized? People are way more inclined to adopt it because it's new, it's innovative. What's been exciting about the traction you've had to this point, and what are you particularly excited about in terms of the next kind of milestone to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a really cool situation. So we are an enterprise software package. We work for the Fortune 1000, and I have to be somewhat cautious. But one of our clients, as an example, who talks about it all the time, is PepsiCo.
Yeah.
And PepsiCo, we're an enterprise platform inside PepsiCo. They call Lucy Ada there, ADA,
Mm.
after the 18th century Ada Lovelace,
Yeah.
who's first programmer. And so, but all of our clients, you would recognize their logos.
Yeah.
We'll say it that way. And so watching the expanse, and even over the time frame, going from hundreds of users to thousands of users to tens of thousands of users,
Mhm.
right? And truly being an enterprise system where, and we have companies that have 100% of their organization on, or other, or divisions, or different places. But we're I think in 32 countries today where people are using Lucy. where we have again this enterprise scale, and the opportunities are still endless, even inside the companies that are doing things. Because I talk about again new use cases, new things. And how does that apply? Well, it could be marketing and analytics data, it could be HR data,
Yeah.
it could be, but it could be customer success, it could be call center and operations. I mean, just think about a global manufacturer, and they have plants in 30 countries,
Yeah.
and each plant has operating manuals and things for their machinery, and and it's in the local language. So in Italian, I need somebody to be able to ask questions in Italian and Spanish, and French and Portuguese, and across the globe, right?
Yeah.
And right now, they might have a ring inside the manufacturing plant that has all the manuals. And so I need to maintain something, something's broken, and some guy's just walking into the room looking
Yeah.
at the manuals until he finds the answer, and then goes back out and tries it, and it's an iterative process. And again, if you could just ask Lucy how to do something, and she brings forward, here are these in 3 different manuals, here are the pages, take a look at them, figure it out, go do it.
Yeah.
You take hours into minutes. You can take days into minutes.
Yeah.
And again, I talked about HR and digital learning and onboarding and sales enablement. So the use cases just
Need to expand.
are just continue to expand.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me a little bit about an entrepreneurial journey. We can't necessarily attack all the markets that Lucy is valid in,
Right.
right? We're an entrepreneurial organization. We got to spend our money. We got to do the right things
Right.
across those things. But our clients keep adding more to it, right? Can it work here? And then we do a little test with them, and without doubt, the answer is yes. Lucy doesn't have limitations. We just have the entrepreneurial venture staffing and go to market kinds of thoughts that we have to make sure that we're smartly spending our money and attacking broad, wide markets.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think about whether it's external or internal, what are some of the biggest risks that Lucy faces today?
Well, it's funny. We talked about the speed of the innovations and changes, and certainly Chat GTP. No technology has ever moved as fast as Chat GTP. As I said, we were already working with GTP for 2 years. It was in our product for a year. We were last chat our GPT 3.0,
Sure.
3.5 turbo, and now 4. And so that's all part of, again, how fast we move. Our It's really interesting because the conversations around GTP have really opened our market for us, because more people realize that they really want to and need to get there, and they don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
But the second component, which is intriguing, which is IT organizations are going, wait a minute, we can do this now.
Yeah.
And the short answer is can and should those are two different questions. So they can do some of it, but they really haven't thought about the scale and scope of what they want to do,
Yeah.
because it's us making these offerings available, but they only do some of what we're doing. They're only inside Microsoft infrastructure, and not out, not this unified version of that. And then the other piece is, here's a little secret about your IT organization. Where's the customer success portion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because whatever they build, you need to support, and we need to. What happens when a connection goes down? What happens when we want to add new data? What happens? How do we make sure that we're getting all the right data into the system? And that's really where the internal side also breaks down, right?
Yeah.
So is it the best use? I'll say it differently. I know my IT organization could write a word processor,
Yeah.
but we buy Microsoft Office, right?
Right.
I
Right.
don't need to write stuff. I could write a payroll system. I could write an ERP system. I could write all of these things. And the reason we choose to buy them is because the cost of ownership is substantially less.
Yeah.
And again, in SaaS software, just installing it, right?
Right.
Installing and managing and updating and all those things. Well, we centralize that across all of the clients. And so there's a little FUD caused by all this conversation, fear, uncertainty, and
Yeah.
doubt of where they want to be. But quickly they realize, no, we actually do need to buy it.
Yeah.
We actually need to buy it from a company that's doing it at scale.
Right.
We do want companies that listen to us And so, we have a customer advisory board. We want to hear what our customers want and need.
Yeah.
And our clients have created what the product is together with us,
Yeah.
right? We've modified and made it better every step of the way. And we continue to work with our clients to make Lucy the most powerful answer engine. And again, they bring in new data sources, new connections, and we just make sure that those become part of the platform. They bring in new content types and new opportunities. And Lucy continues to learn every time somebody asks a question, time somebody gives feedback,
Yeah.
and every time. And so Lucy continues to get better and will continue to get better with our clients.
Yeah. If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision?
Total world domination. Again, we're entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
Our job is to innovate and create great technology. I told you I'm a serial entrepreneur. I told you we have investors. All of those things mean we're going to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I should say it could mean go public or other things. But I think that as true entrepreneurs, you have to understand that going public is not off. It shouldn't be the goal always.
Mm.
And it actually trips up lots of companies because it costs millions of dollars a year to be public.
Yeah.
And if you're $100 million company, the overhead is too high. Right? If you're a billion or multi-billion dollar company, that may be an opportunity.
Sure.
But even then, finding the right home inside the right organization for our product and products is always going to be the outcome. And certainly that's what our investors expect. They don't want a dividend check. They want a liquidity event check.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like this next section. I call it my founder FAQ. So I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions and we'll see where we get. I always like to open it up with this question. What's particularly hard about your job?
So first of all, I think I have the greatest job in the world. I get to do what I do every day. I have just the most awesome employees. I get to mentor and lead them. We get to, again, innovate for the world's best companies, and we get to affect their speed of doing business. I get answers in seconds, not days or weeks or months. And so I help them make better decisions faster. And so I don't I don't have a hard part to my job.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I was just thinking about obviously there's always concern around AI and especially because of the velocity and what it's able to do. There's always like concerns about jobs, but I'm more excited about the possibilities it's going to allow people in terms of a tool to be able to get answers more quickly or utilize. What are some ways that AI is not being used yet that you're particularly interested in? Maybe other companies tackling it, or maybe even you might tackle it in the near future. Is there any way it's being underutilized that you'd like to see the technology be used for?
Well, so first of all, we keep using the words AI or letters AI,
Sure.
right? So I want to define AI as I see it versus the world sees it.
Place it.
So everybody's thinking artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is part of what I think it is. But we use the words augmented
Mm,
intelligence. And so we're about making knowledge workers better, faster, all kinds of things. And again, those applications are infinite as it's just as what we're describing. But it's not about operating a manufacturing piece of equipment, monitoring things that are happening and
yeah.
automatically adjusting things. And that's a good use of AI. I'm not saying don't do that.
Yeah.
That's not what we do. We are focused on, hey, you have 10,000 or 100,000 workers. We want to really, really help them do their jobs better. You have 1 million customers. We want to help them have a better experience working with your company.
Yeah.
And and so and there is a level of it applies to every job everywhere if we're doing it right.
Yeah.
And yet companies, as I said, and we're working with them to pick the first use cases,
Yeah.
pick the first data sets and pick the first users. And again, I don't the big bang doesn't actually work as well here
Sure.
because the AI is a learning system. And so you're better off starting with 1,000 people and then getting to the 100,000 people, and you can do it quickly, but you still need that first 1,000 that goes through the process and gets there.
Yeah.
And but companies are not there.
Yeah.
In most companies, they do not and have not deployed things. They're working with legacy technologies
Yeah.
and sets. And so, and this is where Chat GTP has been awesome for the overall concepts of artificial intelligence, because everybody now realizes what this technology can do. And actually, I'm going to say this out loud. OpenAI built ChatGTP not to be a consumer tool for 10 billion users.
Mhm.
They built it as a proof of concept of what is the art of the possible.
Yeah.
And so now people have been exposed to the art of the possible. And it has real world use cases right now that it's cool and it can work. But again, as I said, we're focused on a whole different data set. We're focused on different use cases. We're focused on all kinds of things. But people now understand and are demanding of their IT organizations, the capability to leverage the data that we have,
Yeah.
to find answers in seconds, and to be able to bring forward. I mean, what used to happen is an executive would come down, they'd ask a question of a group of people, they'd say, "We don't know the answer. We'll get back to you." They come back a week or a month later with the answer, and the executive says, "I already had to make that decision,"
Yeah.
because they didn't have a week or a month or longer to do a data collection, to do all kinds. I need the answer now because I'm making this decision today.
Yeah.
I have to make this decision today. And so that's where this power is just totally gapping,
Yeah.
or I guess this newly exposed power. I said, I've been doing this for years,
Yeah.
but most people are just learning about what it can do now.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like to ask this question because I love how founders extract knowledge from anything that they ingest, whether it was early in your career or now. What books or people have influenced you the most?
So I mean, I want to say I've read all kinds of books. It's interesting. So from an entrepreneurial perspective, actually, I'm going to reach back. I can just grab it. There's a book called Traction,
Yeah.
and it's written by a gentleman named Gino Wickman. And this is an entrepreneurial operating system. They call it EOS.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the whole idea of EOS is, this is how to run the business, run meetings, track your things. It has nothing to do with product market fit. It's all kinds of things. But it's an awesome book. And this is how we operate our companies and our all, in past companies too. But the cool part is, when you get an offer from one of my companies, you get the book,
Yeah.
and we send it to you, and we say, "Hey, read the book, because this is how it's going to work. And your weekly meeting is described in here, and our quarterly of planning sessions are described in here. The annual planning session is described in here." And so, and it's not that it's the best operating system. I don't care. It's a fantastic operating system, and there's a book, and so I don't have to manage or create it or teach that.
Yeah.
And so, and again, when I say that, I could reach into my credenza, and there's 20 of them here, because I hand them out like water, and I make sure that everybody knows you need to operate your company in a predictable way. And so and for employees, they actually appreciate it, right? Here's what it is. It tells you how we judge, manage, make sure we have the right people in the right seats
Yeah.
for across the organization. And right people is defined as the people that follow and live our core values.
Yeah.
And right seats is, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? Right. And I mean, again, it's a Bible in how to operate an entrepreneurial venture, and it doesn't really stop there. But because bigger companies can use or leverage the concepts there, but this is about entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I love that. And I always like to, I know we're coming to the end of the show here, and I always like to ask this question to make sure we didn't leave anything on the table. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have, or that you would have liked to answer? Anything left on the table here?
Well, there's the thing about entrepreneurs, and I don't know if you asked this, but again, Minnesota Cup, we've helped 20,000 plus entrepreneurs. I've interacted with them all, and you talk to them, then you ask questions about books. Here's my belief: entrepreneurs are born, not created.
Yeah.
Books and knowledge and education and experience make them better,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I go back to Michael Jordan. He was an awesome basketball player.
Right.
Coaches and training and repetitive made him to the level that he was.
Right.
And so you got to put in the hard work. You got to be willing to do all of the work necessary. We all can learn. think a tree that stops growing dies. So the second I think I know everything, I'm going to die,
Yeah.
right? And so the idea here is, so I'm not saying don't read a book or don't, you can get better, but there is a, we have a, we have a society today who thinks everybody's an entrepreneur. And I hope everybody can be and they can do things. But there's a thing about creating real companies, real products, versus. And I'm not saying an influencer isn't an entrepreneur, but they're not running a business yet.
Yeah.
They're just doing something, and to take something to scale and do all kinds of things. There's something in your soul that says, I want to get up every morning, work 60, 80, 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
I want to risk everything, including financially, emotionally, my relationships, and all. And then I get to work until I'm falling asleep at the keyboard and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And so there, you could say it's a form of insanity or stupidity, but it's a thing. And nothing drives entrepreneurs like the opportunity to succeed. And the best entrepreneurs are doing it for a
Yeah.
mission, their mission. And so enabling corporate knowledge and being the ultimate answer engine for every company in the Fortune 1000. That's what drives me every day. I do it for our clients, and then the other pieces, and for the employees.
Yeah.
And again, I got gray hair and seasoned entrepreneur, but nothing makes me and my partners more excited than watching our former employees in their own entrepreneurial ventures succeed,
Yeah.
and hearing about other companies and their liquidity events or their successes. And so you got to cheer on your own, right?
Right.
And so we help and mentor and grow people. We help inside our company. We do it for others outside our company.
Yeah.
And again, in Minnesota, we've done it for 20,000 people, and that's the payback.
Yeah. It's incredible, obviously, to learn about your experience and where you've come from and how you kind of got to running Lucy, but also what you've learned along the way. I can't wait to share this with the audience for so many different reasons, not only philosophically, but with strategy and how to approach things. But last little bit is, where can we find you and be a supporter of you as a founder, and also go out and seek out information from an individual like yourself? What are your LinkedIn's? What are your websites? Where can we find you and be a supporter, and also inquire about ways to build better?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm Dan Mallin on LinkedIn. And Lucy is lucy.ai, and just check out what Lucy's doing. There's some videos there. And of course, I want you to tell everybody that if you're looking for real success with augmented intelligence in the enterprise, Lucy is the answer.
Amazing. Dan, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and thank you again for being on Behind Company Lines today.
Thanks, Julian. It's great to meet you and great to share.